Hello, this is Executive Coach Kim Miles, and welcome back to Balanced Life, Finally Feel the webinar. We are digging right into Module 2, which is on values alignment. One of the reasons that values alignment is included in this webinar is because it is my truest belief that when you are deeply aligned with your values and allow them to help you make decisions, then your life can be exactly what you want it to be, filled with those things that are important to you. And so let's look at a definition of values, and specifically the different influences that impact our values. The first definition of value is something as a principle or quality intrinsically valuable or desirable. And this is what I call our beliefs. When we talk about what we believe to be valuable, many times it comes deep within us. And we may not even be able to identify exactly where it came from. Sometimes it's your personality, sometimes it's some ideas that have been rolling around in your head since you were a little kid as to what was of value to you. Maybe it was an experience that you had that shaped your values. Maybe you grew up poor and now you value having, some kind of possessions, a home maybe. Maybe if you were homeless and now you have a home, that's something that you truly value. So our beliefs definitely influence how we look at values. And another definition of values is a concept that describes the beliefs of an individual or a culture. And I look at these as societal values. And we can look at different states or even countries to find how people value things differently. Here in Colorado, we value nature and being outdoors. We value experiencing winter, summer, spring, and fall, and being outside when we're doing that. And it may be different in other parts of the country. Another example would be that of family and how we value family. There are countries that have multiple generations, up to 4 generations in one household. And I can tell you that in the United States, that's not very common. But you can see that some cultures are going to put such a high value on not just family, but extended family. And that's very different than other places. And then finally, a definition is the generalized, relatively enduring, and consistent priorities of how we want to live. And this is the wants component. This is the best thing about our values and our life in general, is that we get to choose what that's like. We get to choose what we put priority on, what we put value on. And so when we look at these 3 influences regarding values, the beliefs that we came up with, that we were born with, or that we brought along with us, the societal beliefs, what our society or our culture is deeming value, and then what we want to be focused on or have as our values. So I'll give you an example of sometimes how our values will show up and we are not even aware of it. I had a girlfriend who had a voicemail message that said, "Hey, I can't take your call right now. I'm out making money with my business, but leave me a message and I'll get back to you when I can." Now, there's no judgment regarding this message, but what does this message tell you she valued? She valued working, she valued her business, and she valued money. And that is perfectly fine. Again, no judgment. But the question lies in, is that what she wanted to be focusing on? Is that what she wanted to have the emphasis of her values? Maybe yes, maybe no. But I'd like for you to take a look at your values and your actions. And are those in alignment? What does it say to others when you're late to a meeting? Or when you work 60 hours? Or when you postpone a date night? What does it mean when you send a handwritten note? Or maybe you look someone in the eye when you're talking to them? Or maybe you're spending a lot of time creating something that will ultimately impact the world in a hugely positive way. What are those messages that you're sending to the outside world regarding your values? I found this really great quote. Everything I own has some significance to me. Dylan Lauren. I modified this just a bit to say everything I do has significance to me. And when we're talking about creating a balanced life, this is a really important point, is to make sure that everything that you do, every action you take, every engagement that you make, that it has some significance to you. So let's look a little bit at the values-based decision-making. And what I'm talking about here is allowing our values to be that which drives our actions and our decisions. Allowing our values to be the foundation from which we start and end our day. I'm talking about making decisions based on our values, because when we do, we're more confident. We know what to say no to. We say yes to the right things, and decision making is easier. When you think about it, if there's a tough decision to be made, there's something that goes on in your mind to prioritize which, option A or option B you're going to decide. And what I'm suggesting is if you use your values to drive that, then it'll be very easy. So let's go ahead and jump into this activity. I'd like you to pull out your values alignment exercise, and you'll notice that there is a list of values. Now this list does not include every value imaginable. This is a shorter list, and I'd like you to go through that list with the perspective of your personal life. And go ahead and just take some time with the list, look through it, and I'd like you to choose 5 personal values you want to live by. And then with those 5, I'd like you to rank those values. And here's how I'd like you to consider ranking them. The first, number 1, is going to be your top value, and the 5th is going to be the lesser of the least important of the top 5. Now mind you, these are your top 5, so each one of them is extremely important to you. But when you're going through your list, I'd like you to consider looking at just the first 2 that are, as you've checked them. And if you look at number 1 and number 2, and you say, if I could only live by one of these, which would it be? If I could only live by achievement versus integrity, if there's only one that I could have, which would it be? And then, once you've decided which one comes first, then you take that one that has come first and you compare it to the next one on the list. If I could only have, let's say you chose integrity, if I could only have integrity or, let's say, perseverance, if I could only have those 2, which would it be? And I want you to go through the list and then compare each one of them. So you'll go through and compare the first to the second, the first to the third, the first to the fourth, the first to the fifth, and you'll come up with your number one. And then you go through the second one and you compare the second one against each one that's left on the list. Okay, so go ahead and hit the pause button and take some time with this exercise. I really encourage you to, again, if there's a value that's not on the list, please add it to your list. And then we'll go through the ranking exercise. So go ahead and hit the pause button, and I'll catch you back in just a minute. Okay, welcome back. Did you come up with a personal values list and a ranking? If you did, it might look something like this. And you'll notice that when I went through it, the ones that were listed on my list that I wrote down first was family, connection, self-care, influence, and inspire. And then when I went through the comparison exercise, connection came up as my first value. Family was the second, influence was the third, inspire was the fourth, and self-care was the fifth. Again, this is all through the lens of my personal life, and these are my personal values. So now, if you go to the next page, you might notice that it's the exact same list of values. So again, if there's something that's not on there, please do add it. But this time, we are going to look from the lens of our business or our career. It's really important that you take a moment and put on that different hat. This isn't our personal, this is about our business or our career. We're going to work through the same exercise of choosing 5 and then ranking them. Use the same ranking technique that I talked about earlier. And I'll let you hit the pause button, and then let's connect back in just a few minutes. Okay, welcome back. How was it the second time around when you had your business hat on or your career hat on? Did you struggle at all, or was it a little bit easier for you? So your list may look something like this, where you have your list of business values and then you rank them. For me, connection, again, was on the list, and that ranked number 1. Number 2 was adding value. 3 was financial success. 4 was educating others, and 5 was influence. So now, when we compare these side by side, and what I did was I first put the rankings 1 through 5, then I wrote down the personal values, and then I wrote down the business values. You'll notice a couple things here with my list. Connection was at the top of both. But then you'll notice that influence was number 3 in my personal, but number 5 in my business. Then you'll also notice that educate others never showed up on the personal values list. This is not uncommon. It's not uncommon to have values in your personal and business that are in alignment, or in alignment but not in the same ranking, or even to have values that don't show up on both lists. And that's perfectly fine, because now here is where we're getting into the fun stuff. We're getting into our personal choice. And what we're talking about, again, is choosing the values that you want to drive your decision making. So, next, I want you to choose the top 5 values that will drive your behavior. This is what I chose: connection, family, financial success, and influence, and self-care. I chose these because this is what I want my life to look like. I want it to look like connection. I want family to be important to me. I want financial success. both personally and professionally, that's important to me. I want to have an influence, and I always want to be providing myself excellent self-care so that I can fulfill all of my commitments, all of my deepest desires, and be my highest self. Now, when we talk about allowing these things to drive our behaviors, what I'm really talking about is having this list available and visible to you at all times until it becomes ingrained in your brain. Because here's what happens. We get invited to, let's say, a Super Bowl party, and it just so happens to be a day when maybe there's another activity going on. Maybe there's something going on at church or in your business or with your family. And we have to make these tough decisions. What do I do? Which do I dedicate my time and energy to? Where do I spend my valuable time? So what I always recommend is that when you are looking at your values, that whatever decision you make must meet 3 of the 5 values. So for instance, if the question is, do I go to a Super Bowl party or I go to a distant cousin's birthday party? Which do I choose? Will I get to connect? Yes. Will I be with family? Well, if I'm with my actual distant cousin and all my family is going to be there and I've defined family as purely just my family, then yes. If I define my friends and the people who are at the Super Bowl party as family, then yes, also. Now, let's just use the scenario where the Super Bowl party, there's only a couple of people that I know, whereas the cousin's birthday party, I'm going to know everyone. So that will increase the connection, but it'll also strictly be family. So we've got 2 out of the 5. Will either one of these parties bring me financial success? No. Will either one of these parties allow me to influence other people? Possibly. That one's a maybe. And which one of these parties will provide me more self-care? Whether that's fill me up, allow me to eat healthier, energize me in some way. Maybe the time of day is such that I can really provide self-care, get my workout in, or maybe get to bed early, whatever the scenario is. Let's just say that the Super Bowl party is going to end earlier than the personal party, the cousin's birthday party. So now I've got connection and self-care on the Super Bowl party. I've got connection and family on the cousin's birthday party. And how do I choose? Well, now which one will I have the greater ability to have financial success? Neither. Or the greater influence? And that's what you use to decide. For me personally, it's likely going to be the family birthday party that I'll have greater influence. I'll be around my nieces and nephews. I'll be around my cousins. I love spending time with my family. So for me, in that scenario, the decision became pretty easy. So that's what we're talking about when you're letting your values decide and drive your decisions. So go ahead and process this for a little while. I would love to hear what you think, so please feel free to email me or give me a call and let me know how this exercise was for you. I look forward to our time. This is the end of Module 2, and I look forward to seeing you back in Module 3. And until then, many blessings and much gratitude.